Hello, I'm Katie from Kate-EmVintage and welcome to my podcast, which is all about making. Mainly knitting, that's my main making, but I also like a bit of sewing and a bit of embroidery, so there'll be some mentions of those crafts from time to time. I am going to talk about what I've been making, my current makes, my recent makes, and a bit about what I'm thinking of making next, as well as a little look at some things that I might have bought recently. This is my second proper podcast, and I must apologise actually because there's been a ginormous gap between this podcast and the first one, and that completely wasn't intentional. So a few things happened. Went on holiday, got ill, and then some life stuff just happened. And then there's also been a couple of weekends where I've wanted to podcast, but the weather has been atrocious and the light has been absolutely rubbish. So that's kind of relevant today actually. It's chucking it down with rain. So I've tried to get the best light that I can, natural light that I can, but if there's a bit of a reflection on my glasses, I'm really sorry, but it's because I'm sat at kind of angled to the window to try and get the most kind of realistic lighting so that things show up their proper colour. So yeah, if you've seen my first podcast, if you've watched it or liked it or left me a comment, thank you ever so much. It was really lovely to have a kind of conversation with people and to meet some new people. That was brilliant. I've also got, what some of you might have seen, I went on holiday to Germany in July, and I did a kind of knitting vlog, travel vlog thing. It was the first time I've ever done anything like that, so I was just having a go. And so there's a Berlin and Bavaria and knitting a sort of vlog up there as well. If you haven't seen it and you'd like to take a look at that, you get to see some sort of sights of bits and pieces of Germany and the two projects that I was knitting on. And that brings us really handily to what I am wearing. So ignore this because this is shop bought just because it's cold, but this is my completed Tolsta tank by the Crea Bear, and I'll just stand up so you can see a bit. Just a little turn around, stand on my tiptoes so that you can see the hem. There we go. And the first thing to say about this is it is such an amazing fit. I'm like astounded by how brilliantly it fits. Sorry, cold shoulders. So I'm just checking my notes to see what I did. I was determined that I was going to use this yarn because this yarn has been in my stash for forever. At least 7 years, and it was Sublime Cotton Silk DK. I'm not even sure whether you can get that anymore. And I had originally cast it on to be a 1950s quite kind of lacy bolero, and I was probably about halfway through it, and then for whatever reason, probably because something new and shiny caught my eye, I just left it and didn't finish it. And then when I was having a bit of a sort out, I was trying to have a very realistic, do I need this work in progress? Am I actually going to wear it? Do I want it? Do I even want to knit to finish it? And the answer for this one was no. I'd rather use the yarn for something else. And I thought it would be really nice for the Tolsta tank, because it being cotton and being silk, it would be a lovely blend of fibres for the summer. So I've knitted the vest version. So the pattern gives you 3 versions, gives you a sort of square neck one, this one, and something else I can't remember. But I really like this kind of, I'd call it like a shell top kind of, where it covers, you know, covers your shoulder, not your shoulders, but it goes up to your shoulders, covers your bra strap. It's got quite, I burn really easily, so it's nice for me to have like quite good coverage, but still be cool because you haven't got the sleeves. So this was the version I decided to go for. And when I swatched in this yarn, I couldn't get my gauge right. Not surprised there. And it kept coming out a few too many stitches this way, and my length was off. So in the end, I decided to just kind of jiggle the size that I made rather than have to give up and use a different yarn or use needles that made a fabric that I didn't like as much. So in the end, I went for a size 5, which is a 50-inch bust. Mine's 47. So, but I knew that because of my gauge swatch, it would probably come out slightly smaller, and that's what I wanted because I didn't want a lot of ease. I wanted it to be more fitted. So this knitted is a really nice fabric. It's kind of it's sort of loose-ish, like it's got drape, but it's not see-through, and it's sort of the stitches are defined nicely, so I thought that would be really good. The other thing that I did, which I liked that this was a choice, is that Rebecca in her pattern had included bust shaping fitting. So her standard Tolsta tank is for a B cup, and then she included shaping for a D cup and for an F cup. And it's based, if you've never done it before, it's based on the difference between your kind of high bust measurement and your full bust measurement. So you take those measurements, and then her guide, she also links to a guide if you need help to know exactly where to measure, tells you the difference between them, and it tells you whether, like, if you're this particular difference, you could knit a D cup. If you're this particular difference, you could knit the F cup version. And one thing that I find with tops quite often is that they do sort of pull up at the front, because obviously your bust is taking up fabric this way, and so you lose like length, and so you can end up with it looking uneven on the front and back. But this shaping, this bust shaping, it has been amazing, and this sits perfectly level all the way around. So, and it wasn't difficult, and so like if you have a problem with that, or it's a fit issue that you notice, excuse me, can't see, then I would really recommend that. So I'm really pleased with this, and I know that I'm not a huge fan of knitting summer tops, but I know that I will be knitting another 1 or 2 of these for next year, because I really like it and I love the fit. So that was that. The other thing that, if you have watched my Germany video, you'll know, is I decided that it was time to learn how to make socks. And for many years, I have spent time thinking, do I even want to wear socks? Not really. Do I want to knit socks? No, don't really see what all the big deal is about. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with socks. I get it. I really get it. I want to knit all of the socks all of the time now. So I took, this was one of my holiday knits because it squished down quite small, and my other one was all the stuff needed to knit a pair of socks, and I used the basic 4-ply sock pattern from Winnick Mum, which is brilliant, and it takes you through really guided step by step. So even when I was knitting thinking, I don't know, like, well, let's turn the heel, and I was like, I don't know, never done one before, and then you knitted exactly just what it said, and it was like, boop, there is the heel. It was just really good. So I thoroughly recommend that pattern for a beginner sock knitter, or B, if you just want to knit some, you know, plain socks because you want to let your yarn sing. And the second thing I took to go with the pattern was the wool, which was the Grenadine sock set from Beehive Yarns. And I have to really say thank you to Beth, because she was a huge encouragement for like, go for it and see if you can knit some socks. I've been collecting sock sets for a little while just because I love them. I love like the things paired together. I just think they're really nice. And I've knitted a shawl in one sock set, but I thought perhaps it was time to actually use a sock set for socks. So these are my socks. Look at them. Look at them. That is so cool. So I'm going to bring them forward so you can see. Potentially this is actually a little bit dark, is because of the rain. They're perhaps even more zingy in real life. Look at that, I've got a heel. So it's a heel flap and gusset pattern. Really enjoyed doing that. And yeah, here's just one of them. So, and they fit and everything, and I'm really pleased with them. I did a 68 stitch count because that, from what I'd worked out, that seemed to be what would fit me best. But having completed them, I actually think that I can go down on the sort of cuff and leg, but my clearly quite hobbity feet need the width. So I'd probably stick, well, I'll show you later. I've stuck with the 68 across the for sort of from the heel on, but this bit can go these aren't too big, there's just a little bit of a wrinkle, and that's just being picky. So I am overjoyed with them. They are my first pair of socks. I love them very much, and I think they're great, and they're really cheerful. So looking forward to boots, tights and cheery sock weather. I think that's going to be brilliant. So yeah, so I finished, I knit these, I started knitting on the plain. I managed to get a tiny pair of circulars. I don't like DPNs, so it was always going to be circulars for my socks. I managed to get them through security. With my, and when my bag was x-rayed, we only took take-on luggage, so obviously they were in there, and my bag got pulled out, and I was like, oh no, they're going to take my knitting off me, and I don't know what I'll do, because A, I can't have 3 weeks in Germany without any knitting, and B, I'm not a very good flyer at all, and I was counting on the knitting to kind of get me through the flight. But it was only that it just hadn't x-rayed properly. It wasn't that there was a problem with what was in there. So they just put my bag back through, and then they were like, oh, it's fine. And I'd had sort of 4 minutes of complete, oh, don't take my knitting off me, panic. And then they weren't at all bothered. So when I got on the plane, I just cast these on, and I sat and knitted really happily away to myself, and had music on, and then I could block out, kind of pretend that I wasn't really on a plane. Just carry on knitting, and I managed to knit a full sock and a half whilst I was away, which was brilliant. I was really, really pleased, and then I finished them off as soon as I came back. So yeah, love them very much. Oh, I should have said this is 4-ply, and it's a normal 75% merino, 25% nylon. So they were my two sort of start of the summer projects. It feels a bit weird to be saying summer projects, but because I've had this gap that I really didn't intend to have, I want to sort of catch up with what I've been doing. So that's 2 successes, which means obviously we're due a fail. And I've got one. In fact, I could probably have talked about 2, but I'm just going to stick with one. So remember, the fit of this is great. We really love it. We have also produced a summer top where the fit is really bad and we don't love it, and we're going to have to do something about it. So I really like the look of the Layla top by Cadre, and I'd seen it on a few people's Instagram, and I like a textured knit, and I really liked, this is it, come in, like, look at that colour, the colour is ace, and I really love it. And I loved this, that it was quite simple, but just every so often you had these little bumps and it was going to be beautiful. So that's kind of it, as you can see. And I've used a pure cotton here because I wanted it as a summer top, and it is Drops Saffron 4-ply, and the colour doesn't have a name, but it's number 73. And I think it's beautiful, it's really nice. So I did my gauge swatch. I got it. I got the gauge. I was really pleased with that. And I decided that, again, I wanted it to be only have a slight amount of positive ease, because I wanted it to be comfy in warm weather, but not baggy particularly. So I knitted size 8, which is a 48.5 inch. And I thought that gives me 1.5 inches of ease, and that'll be perfect. So I knitted away, really enjoyed knitting it. It was lovely to make. But when I tried it on, I was really horrified at how big the gap of the underarms is. I'm going to put some photos in, because I got some photos to show, so that you can see. But basically it doesn't even cover, like if we're going along here, it comes down to underneath my bra. It's like I don't know, a weightlifting vest or something, which wasn't really what I was going for. And at the time I had thought, oh, you have to cast on it tells you to cast on quite a lot of stitches under the arms, and I think for my size it was like 20 stitches, but I thought, well, okay, I'll just do that because I tend to believe what patterns are telling me. So I did, but I do not need those 20 stitches at all. Like, I don't even need 2 of them. None would have been a much better option. So when I realised after, I had almost finished it, and I realised that the underarm bit was going to be a problem, I tried, I don't know if you can see, to put some ribbing on under the underarm, and I thought maybe that would pull it in and it might make enough of a difference, and it has pulled it in, but not made enough of a difference at all. And you can see that actually that is what I was told to cast on, but so that means all of this is extra, don't need it. That would have been absolutely fine. So that was a disappointment, and I've sort of racked my brains over how I could fix it up, and I took it to show my mum, because my mum's good at that kind of thing, and we both just came to the conclusion that actually I need to rip it back to the armholes, because the top fits really nicely. This top bit's lovely. So I need to take it back to here, not cast on anything extra for the armholes, and then knit the whole of this bit again. So as you can imagine, I'm not overjoyed. And the only reason it's not in the naughty corner is because I've been saving it to talk about. But now it's going straight in the naughty corner, probably till like May next year. And then I will try and deal with it. The other thing I should say is that it has like a really thin I-cord straps, which I think I talked about in my first video, and I talked about the fact that I wanted to make it, and I knew that I would always be wearing a bra, and I would rather have a strap that covered my bra. That's just personal preference, obviously. So I just knitted a garter stitch strap. Actually, I could probably take a little bit off that and pull it up slightly, but even so, that's not enough to account for the underarm problem. So yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if that's like a me thing, a shape of me compared to the shape of the pattern, or I really don't know, but I was disappointed. And I've seen so many people in really lovely ones, so it obviously does work out nicely for some people, and I'm just sad that it wasn't me. And this is going away, and we might see it again next year. So that's my big old knitting fail. So obviously after that, I just hate that. It's so disappointing, isn't it? It's so disappointing. You're knitting it, you're investing your time in it, you're thinking, yes, I've planned my outfits, I know what I'm gonna wear this with, and then you put it on and you're like, oh, rubbish. Which obviously is immoral for trying it on but as you go, isn't it? But I didn't. So that's that. Then the next thing I have got to show in my most recent makes is a lovely. So at the end of my last, not the travel one, but my first podcast, I said I was about to enter my vest era. I could feel it coming, although I said tank top, obviously, because that's what I think of them as. But as you probably know, if you look at lots of patterns, there's been lots of vest tank tops around. And so many beautiful ones, and I definitely was sure that I was going to start my vest. And then Sister Mountain put out a test call for a really lovely vest, and I thought, oh, it's a sign. I'm going to apply for that test, and if I get it, I'll be starting my vest era. And I got a place on the test knit, which was fabulous, and it's called the Grosgrain Slipover, and I think it's coming out this coming week. I meant to check the date, the exact date, before I started filming, but I forgot. So I'm pretty sure it's this week. And this, I might have to stand up again. This is it. So she's been talking online a little bit about her kind of mood board and ideas for this, and it's got a kind of preppy feel, and it's got a bit of a cricket pullover feel, obviously without the cables. And then, so I just stand up. Ta-da. This is it. This is the lovely 2-colour neck. She actually does a 3-colour neck, but I just stayed with the 2-colour one. And then there's some lovely ribbing around the sleeves, and also the shaping at the back, if I can get that sorted. That's really nice as well. Yeah, look at that. Really nice. So it was really good knit. Really enjoyed it. Pattern was really clear, didn't have any issues at all. It made perfect sense. It did, this is an interesting point, it did call for a bit of an increase when you came to joining the armhole together, because it's knitted in the round, knitted top down in the round. And I thought, I've been here before. So I tried it on, and I think I only cast on half the number of stitches it said under the arm, because I felt that I wouldn't need all of them. And I'm glad that I made that modification, because that's turned out to be true. You have to excuse because this isn't blocked yet, because I kept putting that off because I kept thinking I'm filming my podcast and I want to be able to show it. So where this is folding in a bit, that's gonna get blocked out. And also the back neck needs blocking a little bit, but you can see it's going to be great. I really like it. It looks a bit, I don't know, wrinkly fuzzy, and that's because I have reclaimed this yarn from another complete knitting fail, which is quite a long time. That's had its time in the naughty corner and had been long enough that I felt that I could rip it to pieces. That was an entire textured jumper short sleeve garment that I just didn't, I could literally have fit 2 of me inside it, which is a terrible combination of, I can't have measured my gauge properly. I think I had too much positive ease, and I'm not convinced that even if I had knit it correctly, with all the gauge and everything being correct, I just think it would always have looked terrible on me. And I just think it was bad choices all the way around, basically. So, but it did take quite a long time because it was a textured yoke and then a textured bottom bit. It was beautiful, you know, lovely pattern. So it had been, I enjoyed knitting it, but it was a big knit, and then it didn't fit and was horrendous, and there was nothing that could be done about it. So I actually decided that because I didn't think in the end it was going to look good in whatever form I made it, I put it in the naughty corner for at least a year, and then what I did is ripped it back, which took forever. It took so long. I was like, God, you took a long time to knit, and now you're taking forever to unknit too, and I do not know what is going on here. So basically, I ripped it back a ball at a time, knitted this, and then as I was running out of the ball, I ripped back another bit of the jumper. So I'm well aware that some people would have, you know, ripped it back, soaked it, dried it, and wound it back up again, but yeah, is probably the technically correct thing to do. But I didn't have the patience for that. So, and I didn't want to faff with the yarn for longer than I needed, because I might have lost the sort of willpower to rip that jumper to pieces. So it looks a bit scrunchy because basically it's been unravelled and just knit straight again, but I'm figuring a good block will sort that out and it will be fine. So the size that I knitted, I'm just checking, I couldn't quite get the gauge right, so I went down a size because I knew that at my gauge and my size it would be too big for me. So I knitted the 44 to 46 inch, and I used Serdar cashmere merino silk. So it was it was nice yarn. I didn't want it sitting in the naughty corner forever. It definitely needed to be sorted out. So yeah. So lovely, thoroughly recommend it as a pattern. It's going to be so cozy. I can't wait to wear it. In fact, I might block it after this and then I can get wearing it. Yeah, lovely pattern, sort of simple but with really nice details and really nice to knit. So thoroughly recommend that one that's coming out from Sister Mountain. So that really is most of my kind of most recent makes, but I have some, they're sort of works in progress, but they're socks, and I've knitted at least one of the socks, so they're like complete and not complete at the same time. So as soon as I'd finished my first pair of socks, I just wanted to cast on another pair of socks straight away. It's like, give me all the socks. So I decided to cast on a second pair of the same pattern, so still Win It Mum's basic 4-ply socks, and these are them. So it's still, these aren't blocked either, by the way, I haven't done that yet. So this is, look at the beautiful yarn. This is a sock set from Beehive Yarns again, and it's the Belladonna sock set, and I just love those colours. So looking forward to wearing them. I meant to do a contrast heel, but I knitted the heel before I remembered. I thought, I'm not doing that again. So yeah, they haven't got a contrast heel. Yeah, so this is the one I did just cast on 60 stitches for this bit, and then I increased my stitches after the heel, which turns out I didn't like, because I can see it and I don't like it, so I've done something different on the second sock. So the foot is a 68 still, so that's them. And then I am so close. Here is sock number 2. Here we go. So this time I put the increases in before the heel flap. So like the last 3 rounds, I gradually increased up to 68, so that I did a 68 at the heel flap, 68 stitches across here, and as you can see, I'm on the toes. I think I've got 6 rows maybe to do. I should say, I wonder if we can see him. Come on, little ghosty. Can we see him? He's from Yarnistry's Halloween stitch markers last year, and I think he's a bit excellent. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to finish these. Probably finish this after this, and then I shall block them and then try them, and then this will give me a bit of an idea about what size sock I actually like. And if this one I'm not quite sure about, then I've decided the next one is going to be 64 stitches. Ooh, from a cough. And just see what happens there, because yeah, I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm enjoying the process of working out what's going to be the best for me. And then I feel like I'll have a really good just plain sock, even more well-fitting plain sock sorted out in my arsenal. But I've also been wanting to try all the exciting textured socks as well, because as I said before, I really do enjoy textured knit. So I found, I'm just checking the name, yeah, so Northwoods Knit Co had a test call for a pair of double knit socks, and I thought, well, that'd be interesting because I've not knitted double knit socks before. And she had 3 patterns that were going to be released together, and they have just come out. I think they came out on Friday, called the Homestead collection. And one of them's got a big cable down the front. It looks like all squishy and gorgeous. One of them is, I think, kind of more like mock cable, and one of them was very textured. And that's I love them all. I will knit them all, but that's the one that I thought I would apply to do. And also, which I thought was interesting and really good, is she's done the pattern for cuff down or for toe up, so whichever you prefer. You could apply to test knit either of those, and you can buy the pattern either of those ways as well. So I think that's really excellent. So the test knit was just to get 1 sock finished by the deadline of the test knit, but obviously I'm going to knit 2 because I really like them. So it's still blocking. I have actually blocked this one, but here it is. Look at this. We'll get this texture on. So this is a heel flap and gusset as well, and it's a bit hard to see from the side, isn't it? But yeah, there we go. So there's basically three lots of these lovely bumpy, sort of cabley looking, but they're not, they're bumps. And then 1, 2 of these sort of beautiful raised stitches there. And then there's contrast heel, contrast toe. I just did exactly, because it was a test, I did exactly, what the pattern said. I just think they're really stunning, and they're going to be so squishy, so nice to wear. These bumps, texture knobbles, whatever you want to call them, they are not hard to do, but they're a bit like a bobble where you knit into some stitches one way, then knit into them the other way, then knit into them again, or purl, or whatever, but you work the same stitches a few times. And I have to say, they were a little bit of a killer on my hands. Now, part of that is probably because I was knitting on tiny circulars. Part of it is because I've got tennis elbow from knitting and it's mostly okay, but this flared it up a bit. And I also have quite a weak right wrist, because I used to do boxing training quite a lot, and I injured myself. Don't let that put you off. Boxing's like the best thing ever to do. It's so satisfactory. But I injured my wrist, and it was a soft tissue damage. And even though it's quite a few years later, it kind of niggles sometimes, either if I'm putting too much stress through it, too much weight through it, too much kind of fiddling around use of it. So these bumpy stitches, which I loved doing, but I was a bit like, ow, by the end of them. So sock number 2 is coming, but I'm just going to have to let everything, like this arm, settle a little bit before I can do that. But don't let that put you off. My only thing would, I think, and this came up in the test a little bit, if you're knitting with a double knit, then it's not so bad. I think if you were holding 2 strands of 4-ply together to make the double knit, then you're working those 2 strands and all those stitches together, and I think potentially that could be a little bit tricky. But plenty of people did it in the test and their socks look beautiful. So, you know, whatever you prefer, I think it would all be great. This is, I didn't have any DK sock at home, and I needed it to be quick because I was a bit late starting, so I had to go to like my local yarn shop, and they only sell commercial yarns, which is fine. They didn't have any DK socks specifically, but what they did have is they had West Yorkshire Spinners Bo Peep yarn, and have I got a ball band there? Yeah, I have ball band there. So it is wool, but it's a lower wool, higher nylon content than I would probably normally choose for myself. I would like a bit more wool in there, but it feels woolly. So it's got 52% Falkland wool and 48% nylon. And the 2 colours that I used, this one is called Toy Box, and this one is called Dancing Bluebells, which I really like. So yeah, so that was a lovely introduction to DK socks. So I was really pleased to be able to do that test knit, really enjoyed it, and I am looking forward to making the next one when I get to it. So yeah, I don't think there's anything more to say about then. I'm just checking. And then, so that's everything that's kind of just been on my needles, just coming off my needles. And my next plans, I haven't got any more works in progress to show, and I haven't cast on my next knit yet, but both of my next knits are going to be vests. I'm just working out exactly which ones that I want to do. And then also I have more socks planned, clearly, because it's October and this is the first year that I've been able to get involved in Socktober, and I'm really excited about it. And actually I've got a sock kind of pattern video all sorted out in my head, so hopefully that's coming next week or the week after, where I will talk more about my sock plans, but I have got some yarns, so I think I'll move into things that I have bought, my show and tell bit, and then if you watch out for the sock special, you'll get to know a bit more about those things. Now, I want to put up a disclaimer here. I wouldn't normally have this number of goodies to show, but it's been my birthday, and quite a lot of my, when people asked me what I wanted for my birthday, yarn or yarn vouchers featured quite highly in there. So, and a couple of them are souvenirs, so that doesn't count. And then a couple like, I need a treat, so here we go. Because it's autumn, and I love autumn, and I cannot resist people's autumn offerings and also their Halloween offerings. Very exciting. So we'll try and talk about them in the order in which I got them. So this first one is Beehive Yarns. Big Beehive Yarns fan, as you might be able to tell. Look at that. Look at that. Absolutely stunning. So this, Beth runs a Very Vintage Yarn Club, which she does once a month. And this, I can't remember what months it was, but it was maybe like July-ish perhaps, or earlier in the year, but she had some spare ones that she released. And I probably talked myself out of it once, but couldn't talk myself out of it the second time. And this is Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. That's her inspiration picture, which is fabulous. And look at it. Oh, it's amazing. So yeah, I couldn't resist that because I do like a bit of bright pink. It's always good. I like this dark. I'm very much looking forward to them. Have not yet decided what type of sock these are going to be, but gorgeous. So that was my first purchase. My second one, which if you've watched the Germany video, you will already have seen. So obviously one of the things I wanted to do in Germany, apart from like, you know, seeing Germany and stuff, was to see if I could visit some yarn shops. And actually in Berlin, I didn't manage at all because we stayed in Berlin in two chunks of time with some travelling in the middle. And in the first chunk of time, we just didn't fit it in. And in the second chunk of time, I wasn't 100% well, and I just couldn't manage to travel to the yarn shops and get to do other things that we wanted to do. But we went to a couple of other places where I did get to look in some yarn shops, and then the final place that we stayed before we went back to Berlin was a town in Bavaria called Erlangen, which is where my friend lives. And one of the purposes of going to Germany this summer was to meet up with my friend who was my German exchange when I was 13. We're still in touch because her English is good. I only learned German for a year, so my German's not great. And we hadn't seen each other for quite a while, and it was just wonderful to meet up. And the day that she took us on a tour of her hometown where she lives now, she took us into a couple of yarn shops in Erlangen, and I was determined that I was going to find some yarn souvenir type things. So I found this. Look at that. And that, there's something about socks that are safe, isn't it? That like the most kind of leery yarn that you might not be wearing on your body, but you love. Yeah, put it on your feet. That's great. So totally love this orange pink combo. That's the label there. And I spoke to the shop owner, and this dyer was born in Erlangen and lives somewhere else now, possibly Poland, I think. But it was nice that I was able to get a hand-dyed skein from somebody who was local. And this is a 4-ply, it's the usual 75-25. But the name of it, my friend told me, means beautiful dreams. And I just thought that was really lovely as a souvenir. So it might be a hat, cause do love, or it's going to be socks. Not sure yet, but really keen on that. So that was my holiday souvenir. I was really restrained because I only bought that, and that was a fail because I should have bought more, but I didn't. So yeah, and then when I came back from holiday, a pattern designer whose name has just suddenly escaped me released a sock pattern. In fact, I'm not going to talk all about it now, but it basically references Berlin in the sock. And I thought, oh, I need to knit them because I've just been there. So I have got a plan for them, which I'll talk about in my sock special, but I have the yarn ready. So I have, this is Raven Red. It's really, really lovely. Raven Red. And that's Beehive Yarns. And it's on her Audrey sock base, which is the 75 merino, 25 nylon. So that's got a plan ready for that one. And then also this fabulous green. It's more vibrant. It's slightly like the light has made it slightly grayer, I would say. It's like a deeper, more vibrant colour than that. But that's Creative Anarchy yarn. The the name is Emerald City, and it is very emerald. And again, that's a 75/25 4-ply. So these two have got a plan that you will find out more about in another week. And then my last sock set, Creative Anarchy yarn also produced this most fabulous autumn set. Look at that. That's like autumn colours, leaves, hazelnuts, mushrooms, everything good about the autumn, bit pumpkiny, and it's called I'm Down to Forage sock set, and I thought it was fab, so I had to have that. And that's a 4-ply sock set too, so that's really good. So they're my sort of main purchases, but I did have 2 more sneaky ones. And the first one is, I just love this so much. It's a project bag. I couldn't resist it because it combined a few of my favourite things. So, ready? Look at that. Look at the budgies. I don't want a budgie at all. My grandma used to have a budgie and it was fine, but I just think they're amazingly beautiful, and I like them. I like them in all their vintage glory, you know, like a China budgie. I'd happily have a China budgie if I ever found one, or budgies on a tablecloth, or yeah, just I like a budgie. I've got a really nice budgie brooch. I have to wear that next time. Really like that. So this is a gorgeous pouch. This budgie panel is from like a vintage rag book. And it was a particularly marvellous one, and there were quite a few designs that I really like, but the budgies kind of did it. It's got a nice leather zip pull, and it's beautifully lined, stripy in there. My Fresh Herb socks number 2 is in here. And did I say? That's what my DK socks are, the Fresh Herb socks. I don't know if I actually said that, but that's the name of the pattern. And this is made by Sarah from Did You Make It Yourself, she does a lot of like reclaimed textiles. She finds amazing textiles in charity shops and kind of craft. What are those places called? You know, where people can donate all their craft stuff and then you can go and have a good old rummage. Places like that, can't remember the name. And she makes a lot of beautiful sort of pouches, and she makes clothes as well, out of tablecloths and things. But yeah, this spoke to me, so I had to have it. And it's a really good size. It's just plain denim on the back. Good size for a sock knitting. Obviously needed that. So that's that purchase. And then my final one is a big one, because Beth from Beehive Yarns, if you don't know, does a seasonal sort of box of treats of yarn. You can choose double knit or 4-ply, or like you know, Surrey. And they're themed this year around books, and this autumn one was themed around Wuthering Heights. And I read Wuthering Heights when I was about 13 probably, and I think I need to read it again because I think perhaps some of it passed me by because I was too young maybe to fully understand the story. But where I live is not so far away from the Brontes' home, and all the Morlands that inspired their work. And so yeah, I really wanted to get this one. So you get this lovely little bag, so Beehive Yarn and Books bag, and inside she's using these really gorgeous editions. So that's it's kind of sort of a midnighty blue with purples and golds on the front of it. And they're Wordsworth. Is that right? I'm just going to double check before yeah, Wordsworth collector editions. The book. So lovely little hardback. That's really nice. This is the I can't even think of the word. The card that comes with it, that's it. And she puts some suggestions for what you could knit on the back, some links to some patterns and things. And then this is such a treat box. There was some chocolate, but I ate that, so you're not going to see that because I ate it already. There's this lovely candle, and it's North Yorkshire Moors smell, so that's really nice. That's lovely. And there are a couple of teas in there. So a morning and an evening tea, which I've been saving. Some Wuthering Bright's seeds, which is great. So some British wildflowers. So it'd be nice to have a go at growing those. Really fabby little notebook, William Morris pattern on the front there. And then obviously the yarn. So you can get various options, like I said, and I thought about a sock set, and then I thought that actually no, I think I want to knit a shawl. I think that's what it's going to be. So I got the 3 skein option. Oh, look at them. Are they so nice together? Show you. So I'll put them up to the camera. This one is Wuthering Heights. Look at the colours in there. Look at that. So yeah, that's beautiful. This one is Stormy Night, which actually really matches well with the kind of book cover and like a what would we call it, moody evening on the moors. That's gorgeous. And then this is Among the Heather, which is sort of is richer than it's looking here, a little bit richer because the light's starting to go. But yeah, so together, look at that. They are just beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to deciding what to make with them. And I decided to get these because I thought I wanted a shawl. So I decided to really go for the maximum cozy. And I've got them on DK, and I've got the blend which is called Ronnie, and it's 50% merino and 50% silk. And they're just really nice. So yeah, that's my marvellous box that I've got there. So that was when that came through the post. I was very excited. So the last thing that I want to say is just a quick what have I watched and what have I read. I'm aware that this is getting very long now because it's been a bit of a catch up, but I don't want to miss out this last little section, so I'll just be quick. When I'm knitting, I often watch knitting podcasts. It's like my viewing of choice really when I'm doing my knitting. And I've been watching recently Ode from the Bubbles and Berries, who's based in Edinburgh, and she knits really, really beautiful things. Love to see what she's been up to. And she also, Bubbles and Berries is her business name, and she embroiders the most beautiful stitch markers. So they're worth having a look at. She's got a mushroom set come out for autumn, so that's really nice. Then I've been watching Sarah from It Is a Sarah, who is a Dutch knitter and crocheter, and yeah, she has a really beautiful palette of colours that she tends to make things in. She sews a bit as well, so there's a bit of sewing in there, and I just really like how she talks about what she's been making. She is full of sort of joy of making, which is brilliant. And also find it interesting to just learn, like every so often you learn a little bit of an insight into kind of Dutch way of life. So that's fascinating too. So really liking her. And the other one that I've just picked, I've followed her on Instagram for a while, but I've just started watching her podcast, is Rebecca from Moving Stitches. So I've been enjoying seeing what she's been making recently and having a look at all her wonderful creations. So that's who I've been watching, along with, you know, plenty of others, but they're my 3 picks for this current podcast. And then reading wise, I have been having a bit of a crime session. And I have been reading the Ellie Griffiths Ruth Galloway books, which, if you don't know them, Ruth Galloway is like a forensic archaeologist, and she gets called in occasionally when bones are found at various, you know, like if a housing development is happening, she gets called in to identify them, see whether it's a potential murder victim or not. She has an interesting relationship with a policeman called Nelson, and some of the rest of her colleagues feature quite heavily in there. There's a druid in there, and it's all set on the Norfolk, like the North Norfolk coast, and the sort of sense of place, the descriptions of the salt marshes, that's really fabulous too. So I really like, the characters are great, the setting is great, the description is great, it's quite funny in places, and it's not like gore murder, it's really interesting. So I'm trying to read those in order, and there's quite a lot of them, and I'm trying to only buy the books from charity shops, so that means that obviously I have to pause until I've found the next one. So it's taken me a while to read them, but in a way that's just spreading out the joy, so that's good. So that's a bit of a gallop. Sorry, I feel like I've spoken a bit quickly there, but I'm aware that this is coming up to an hour, so it's very long. I really intend to be back very soon. This huge gap is not what I'd planned when I started my podcast. I am hoping for like every 2 to 3 weeks. That's what I was aiming for. So that's what I'm going to come back to. Thank you very much if you've made it to the end of this. It's been really nice just sitting here chatting knitting. Feel free to ask a question, leave me a comment. That's great. I like to have contact with people. If you liked it and you can face doing a thumbs up, that would be really fabulous. And obviously, if you wanted to subscribe, that just helps things get seen on YouTube. So that would be brilliant. So hope you have a lovely week or two. Have a fabulous time making things, and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.